Neymar. The football world had never seen penalty tricks quite like this before, and they had no idea how to stop it, so they changed the rule. His sneaky move was called the paradinha, or the little stop, and it was absolutely deadly. Neymar would run up to the ball normally, then suddenly slow down or completely stop right before kicking, watching goalkeepers panic and dive way too early while he calmly slotted the ball into the opposite corner. It was pure genius, and keepers, they hated every second of it. The little stop became Neymar's signature move, and it was driving goalkeepers absolutely crazy. They never knew when he was actually going to kick the ball. Was this the real shot or just another fake? The psychological torture was unreal, but FIFA had seen enough of this penalty chaos. Right before the 2010 South African World Cup, they dropped the hammer with a new rule that killed the paradinha forever. Starting on June 1st of 2010, FIFA made it crystal clear. You could trick the keeper all you wanted during your run-up, but the second you finished running up to the ball and were about to kick it, any fake out or a little stop was now illegal and would get you a yellow card for unsporting behavior. The paradinha was officially dead and buried. Even after they banned his most famous penalty trick, Neymar kept destroying defenses with his incredible skills, pace, and his creativity. FIFA tried to stop his penalty magic, and he just found 1,000 other ways to embarrass opponents on the pitch. Pele, the world's greatest player, kept getting hurt and had to stay on the field, so they changed the rule forever. Before 1970, World Cups were absolutely brutal. Once your team stepped onto the field with 11 players, that was it for the match. No substitutions during the game, no replacements, and no second chances. If someone got injured mid-game, you either played with 10 men or your hurt player had to tough it out and basically hobble around being useless. It was football's version of survival of the fittest, and it was completely unfair. Pele learned this lesson the hard way. Twice. In the 1962 World Cup in Chile, the Brazilian superstar suffered a serious muscle injury in his left thigh during his match against Czechoslovakia. The injury was so bad that he couldn't play any more matches in the tournament, but during the actual game, he had to either stay on the field hurt or force Brazil to play with 10 men. Then came 1966 in England, and it got even worse. Pele suffered a serious injury during the match against Bulgaria. He was forced to leave the field. Brazil had to play the rest of the match with 10 men, and it contributed to their shocking elimination in the group stage. The world was robbed of watching the greatest player ever because once he got hurt during a match, there was no way to replace him and keep Brazil at full strength. 2 World Cups ruined by injury, 2 tournaments where the world was robbed of watching Pele at his peak because there was no way to get him off the field and bring on a fresh player. FIFA finally realized how ridiculous this was. Why should teams be punished for injuries that they couldn't control? And why should the world's best players be sitting on the sidelines hurt instead of being replaced by healthy teammates? So for the 1970 World Cup in Mexico, they introduced substitution rules for the first time ever. Teams could finally replace injured or tired players during the match. And guess what happened? A healthy Pele led Brazil to one of the greatest World Cup victories in history, playing beautiful football without the fear of being stuck on the field hurt. FIFA changed the rule to protect players like Pele, and football became a much fairer and more entertaining sport because of it. Diego Forland. Goal celebrations were getting out of control, and one player pushed it too far, so they changed the rule. During the 2003-04 season at Manchester United, Forland scored a goal, ripped off his shirt, and went wild celebrating with the fans. Pretty normal celebration stuff, but here's where it got crazy. When the referee restarted the match, Forland was still shirtless and actually chased the ball and touched it while completely topless. The man was playing professional football without a shirt on, and nobody knew what to do about it. But Forland's shirtless chaos was just the final straw. Players had been taking their shirts off for years, usually wearing white undershirts underneath with messages of their families, calling for peace, or even support of political candidates. And FIFA was getting nervous because they could see where this was heading. What if players started wearing sponsor messages on those undershirts? What if every goal celebration turned into a commercial break? The officials and the sponsors were terrified of losing control of their multi-billion-dollar product. So, when marketing director Jerome Valk proposed the rule change, FIFA jumped on it immediately. By the end of 2004, they made it official. Take your shirt off to celebrate and you're getting a yellow card. No exceptions. They couldn't risk players turning every goal celebration into unauthorized advertising time. Even after they killed the shirtless celebration, Forland kept scoring bangers and finding new ways to celebrate. FIFA tried to keep his shirt on, and he just found other ways to light up the scoreboard. Peter Schmeichel. This goalkeeper was so good at wasting time and controlling games that they had to create not one, but two rules to stop him. Schmeichel wasn't just making incredible saves, he was a master at completely killing the game's flow. His most annoying trick was the back pass loophole, where teammates could pass the ball back to him and he'd just casually pick it up with his hands, completely destroying any attacking momentum and slowing everything to a crawl. It was legal, and that was the problem, but it was also absolutely infuriating to watch. During Denmark's legendary run at Euro 1992, he used this strategy to perfection. Denmark would get a lead, and then they would just keep passing it back to Schmeichel, who'd scoop it up and take his sweet time. When they faced Germany, this time-wasting masterclass helped Denmark reach the final and eventually win the whole tournament. FIFA had seen enough of this back pass chaos and created what would become the back pass rule. Goalkeepers could no longer pick up deliberate passes from their own teammates with their hands. The 1992 Olympics was the first major tournament to use this game-changing rule, but Schmeichel wasn't done yet. Even without the back pass trick, the big Danish keeper just found new ways to waste time. He'd catch the ball and just hold on to it forever, 15 seconds, 20 seconds, sometimes even more, slowly walking around his penalty area like he was taking a casual stroll in the park. And this would drive opponents absolutely crazy. This behavior spread to goalkeepers everywhere, and FIFA had to act again. In 1997, they implemented what's called the 6-second rule. Goalkeepers now had a strict 6-second time limit to release the ball from their hands, or they would face an indirect free kick. Even after they put two separate rules in place to actually stop this time-wasting genius, Schmeichel, well, he just kept dominating games with his incredible shot stopping and leadership. They tried to speed him up, and he just found new ways to control matches and help teams win titles. Lee Richmond Roose. This goalkeeper was so creative with the rules that he forced football to create one of the most basic rules. Back in the early 1900s, the legendary Welsh goalkeeper was absolutely unique. He didn't just stop shots, he turned every match into his own personal show. The thing was that back then, goalkeepers could use their hands anywhere on the field, not just in the penalty area like today, and Roose used this rule like nobody had seen before. This guy would catch the ball in his penalty area, then casually stroll out way past the box with the ball still in his hands, and then basically playing as an extra outfield player whenever he wanted. He'd move past attackers while holding the ball, he'd walk up the field to control the game's pace, and use his ability to handle the ball anywhere to actually completely change how football was played. Roose was revolutionizing the goalkeeping position in ways like no one could actually have ever imagined. Picture a goalkeeper who could just pick up the ball and walk around the entire field with it in his hands. That's exactly what Roose was doing, and it was completely within the rules. He was transforming football with his innovative style and showing everyone new possibilities for the goalkeeping position. The International FA Board watched Roose's revolutionary approach, and they realized that they needed to clarify the rules. In 1912, they made one of the most important rule changes in football history. Goalkeepers could now only use their hands inside the penalty area. No more walking around the field with the ball in your hands, no more hand handling outside of the box. The goalkeeping position was now clearly defined. Even after they caged his wildest tricks, Roose kept being an incredible goalkeeper with amazing shot-stopping ability, and he continued to entertain crowds with his unique style. They tried to contain his madness, and he just found new ways of being the most entertaining player on the pitch. Americo Tesier. This goalkeeper turned penalty kicks into psychological warfare. So they created a rule to keep him still. Back in the 1910s and the 1920s, the Argentine keeper wasn't just one of the best goalkeepers in South America, he was a master of mind games, who had figured out how to get inside the penalty taker's head. The thing was, back then, there was no rules about what goalkeepers could do during penalty kicks. So So Tesier went absolutely wild with it. This guy would step way off his goal line before the kick, he would pace back and forth like a caged tiger, he would walk sideways along the goal line, and even stare down the penalty taker to try and break their concentration. He turned every penalty into a psychological battle, where he was trying to make the shooter as uncomfortable as possible before they even kicked the ball. Tesier had mastered the art of distraction and intimidation during penalties. While penalty takers were trying to focus on where to place their shot, they had to deal with a goalkeeper who was moving around, getting in their face, and doing everything possible to throw them off their game. It was like taking a penalty against someone who was actively trying to mess with your mind. The psychological pressure was incredible, and the penalty conversion rates were dropping because goalkeepers everywhere were starting to copy Tesier's tactics. Strikers were getting frustrated because they had to deal with all of these moving parts and mental games instead of just focusing on their shot. The IFAB watched this penalty chaos from afar, and they decided that enough was enough. And in 1929, they created what became known as the goalkeeper stationary rule. Goalkeepers had to keep both feet on the goal line until the ball was kicked, and couldn't run towards the penalty taker before the shot. So no more pacing, no more stepping forward, no more psychological warfare during penalties. Even after they forced him to stay on his goal line, Tesier just kept being one of South America's top goalkeepers, and his incredible shot-stopping ability only became better, and he continued finding ways to use his presence to intimidate opponents within the rules. Zinedine Zidane, the greatest midfielder of his generation, went out in the most shocking way possible and changed football forever. It was the 2006 World Cup final, the biggest stage in the sport, and Zidane was playing his last ever match. Then came the moment that stunned the world. He lowered his head and drove it straight into Materazzi's chest, dropping the Italian defender like a sack of potatoes. The referee didn't see it happen, nobody on the field caught it, but 700 million people watching at home witnessed football's most infamous headbutt in crystal clear detail. The problem was obvious. How do you punish what the referee can't see? Zidane walked off the pitch with a red card, and that was only because the fourth official spotted it on the sideline monitor. But FIFA knew that they had a massive blind spot. Players were getting away with violent conduct, dirty plays, and game-changing incidents simply because 3 officials couldn't see everything happening on a massive pitch. So they revolutionized the game. FIFA expanded the fourth official's role, giving him access to external cameras and the authority to communicate crucial missed incidents to the referee. They couldn't let another World Cup final be decided by something that the officials had missed. That headbutt didn't just end Zidane's career, it planted the seed that would eventually grow into VAR or VAR. So every time you're seeing the referee checking the monitor today, every time a violent incident gets caught on replay, or you're seeing Zidane's legacy, the man who mashed through the beautiful game with his feet ultimately changed it forever with his head. Roberto Carlos. His free kicks were so powerful and unpredictable that they forced FIFA to completely rewrite the rules about defensive walls. The Brazilian left back didn't just take free kicks, he launched missiles that defied physics and made goalkeepers question reality. Carlos could generate so much power and spin on the ball that it would actually curve around walls and dip at impossible angles, and it would leave goalkeepers absolutely helpless. His most famous free kick came against France in 1997, and it started out wide, it curved around the wall, and then it bent back into the goal like it was controlled by a remote, and it was pure magic. But it was also creating a massive problem. You see, back then, defensive walls could move and adjust right up until the moment that the kick was taken. Players would edge forward, sideways, and also completely break formation trying to block Carlos's impossible angles, and the result was chaos. Referees couldn't control wall positioning, attackers were getting frustrated because of moving targets, and free kicks were turning into wrestling matches. Carlos was so good at finding gaps and exploiting wall movements that other players started copying his approach, and suddenly every free kick was a tactical nightmare. FIFA watched this free kick madness and decided enough was enough. In 2009, they introduced what became known as the wall distance rule. Defensive walls had to stay exactly 10 yards from the ball. And once the referee marked that distance with a vanishing spray, the wall couldn't move until the ball was kicked. No more tactical adjustments, no more chaos. The referee now sprays a line and the wall had to respect it completely. Even after they controlled the wall movement, Carlos kept scoring incredible free kicks. FIFA tried to limit his targets, but he just found new ways to bend physics and break goalkeepers' hearts. Luigi Buffon. This goalkeeper was so good at controlling the tempo and distribution that they had to create rules to speed up his game. Buffon wasn't just making world-class saves, he was a master of game management who could actually slow down or speed up matches depending on what his team needed. The Italian legend had perfected the art of tactical time wasting that went way beyond just holding onto the ball. Buffon would take forever to set up for goal kicks, he would slowly be arranging his defenders, and he would be pointing and shouting instructions, walking back and forth across the penalty area like he was conducting an orchestra. When Juventus or Italy had a lead, he'd turn every restart into a strategic timeout, giving his team time to actually reorganize and frustrating opponents who wanted to press for an equalizer. But his most annoying trick was his distribution games. Buffon would hold on to the ball, he would fake like he was about to throw or kick it, and then he would just pull back and start the whole process over again. He'd make eye contact with a teammate, wind up for a throw, then suddenly change his mind and look for a different option. It was legal, but it was driving everyone crazy. Players, coaches, fans, and especially referees who had no clear way to control it. During Italy's 2006 World Cup run, Buffon used these tactics to perfection, helping Italy control crucial matches while managing the clock like a chess master. Other goalkeepers around the world started copying these methods, and suddenly every match was being slowed down by goalkeepers who were gaming the system. FIFA realized that they had to tighten the screws on goalkeeper time wasting. So they strengthened the 6-second rule enforcement and gave referees clearer guidelines about what constituted deliberately delaying tactics. In 2011, they also clarified that goalkeepers couldn't fake distribution repeatedly. Once you start the motion to release the ball, you have to follow through or face a yellow card for unsporting behavior. Even after they cracked down on his time management mastery, Buffon kept being one of the greatest goalkeepers in history with his incredible shot stopping and his leadership. They tried to speed up his mind games, but he just found new ways to control matches within the rules. Frank Lampard. One goal was so obviously robbed that it forced FIFA to completely modernize football with technology. During the 2010 World Cup, England was trailing Germany 2-1 when Lampard unleashed an absolute rocket that smashed off the crossbar and bounced down well over the goal line before spinning back out. It was clearly a goal. Everyone in the stadium could see it. Millions watching on their TVs could see it. Even the Germany players knew that it crossed the line, but the referee and his assistant somehow missed it completely and waved play on. England should have tied the game at 2-2, but instead they stayed down 2-1 and eventually lost 4-1, crashing out of the World Cup in the most heartbreaking way possible. The whole footballing world was in shock. How could such an obvious goal not be given in 2010 when we had cameras everywhere? Lampard's phantom goal became the most controversial moment of that entire World Cup and put massive pressure on FIFA to finally embrace technology. They had been stubbornly refusing to use goal line technology for years, saying it would slow down the game and take away from football's human element. But after Lampard's goal scandal embarrassed them on the biggest stage in football, FIFA couldn't ignore it anymore. They had to act. 4 years later, at the 2014 World Cup in Brazil, FIFA introduced goal line technology for the first time ever. Cameras and sensors that could instantly tell if the ball crossed the line, with the referee's watch buzzing immediately when the goal was scored. Even though the technology came too late to help Lampard in England, his robbed goal changed football forever and brought the sport into the modern age.